Good morning, everyone. I'm coming to you from bed again. I kind of like the metaphoric meaning of it because, there's something about just getting up and being in that vulnerability. I haven't brushed my teeth yet, but luckily you can't. um, yeah, I like it because there's something I feel like about this time that it's like really stripping it down to what's real. What's real? What matters? What has meaning? What's important? And when you're in quarantine and there's the isolation, you realize that a lot of the things that we place importance on, like money and productivity and success and achievement and competition and looking good all the time and having the latest fashion and, no wrinkles and the perfect body and the perfect hair. None of it matters. None of it matters. Again, what I've been speaking to is you realize what matters most is human connection, community, care, support, love, heart. So I kind of like that, good morning. This is me in the morning. I did get a good night's sleep, so that helps. If I didn't have a good night's sleep, it wouldn't be looking so good at all. But yeah, the whole point is just like, can we begin to show up as we are? And it's really interesting because I just got a message from someone that was asking me, I think in this process of quarantine, a lot of shit's gonna come up for people. You have to face yourself. There's no distraction, right? I mean, there's only so far, and I'm seeing some people do some pretty funny shit, which is great. They're really entertaining themselves. Uh, it's great. But a lot of stuff is coming up and people start to look at themselves, which I think is what this world needs. It's like, actually, can we stop and slow down enough to really take a look at ourselves? And the most immediate thing that I hear is like, wow, I don't feel good enough as I am. I mean, this is my work as a coach, is working with people who 99.9% of people feel like they're not good enough. That's the prevailing, overriding belief system that we have. And our culture, our society is a really good example of that. It's like, buy this and you'll be better. Make this amount of money and you'll be better. Have this car and you'll be better. You'll be happy. It's always something that's based on something external, based on doing. And, people say we are what we do, but I disagree with that. I think that what we do can be an expression of who we are, but who we fundamentally are is our innate being, innate nature, and that at its core is always good enough. We are born worthy. But we are told a story or we have a limiting belief about ourselves that feels like we're not. We're not. Somehow along the way we thought, oh, maybe I'm not significant enough or lovable enough or smart enough or whatever it is. There's the scarcity, there's the lack. And unfortunately, again, we live in a culture and an educational system that doesn't support who we uniquely and innately are. So anyway, I digress a little bit. But we're faced with ourselves in this quarantine. And I think there's so many layers to this, and I think it's a beautiful opportunity. I always begin with where you are. Where are you? It was like the other day, if you watched my video, I'd had a really hard day. And the next day I came out of it, I was much better. But what I've learned for myself is to always meet myself with where I am. Not to be better, not to be perfect, not to always be happy. Just to meet myself with where I am, because that's the truth of that moment. And when we can meet ourselves there, then there's the being with, there's the loving attention, which is really what we need. You see that that's all a child needs, is they just need our loving attention. So we're no different because the little child within us wants the same thing. And when we can just be with what we're feeling in that moment, there's the relief, there's the comfort. Oh, okay, I'm not alone. I can be loved even in this way. And I think this is really what our world needs right now, is a hell of a lot more empathy. But we cannot empathize with others unless we first begin to empathize with ourselves. And it's not about being perfect. It's about meeting ourselves in the moment with whatever we're feeling, thinking, experiencing, without judgment. So this ties into a little bit of what I wanted to talk about yesterday that I didn't get around to, because I'm on a full-time job right now taking care of a 6-year-old. I'm really tired. This quarantine is not a retreat. It's a full-time job. I was walking, and there's something about nature, obviously, that is just so healing and grounding. And I put my hands on the earth, and I was like, right, this is real. This is real. And this thought of, wow, in these moments of crisis, in these moments of uncertainty and the unknown and the unpredictability of everything, it requires us to have an unwavering, can be wobbly, but an unwavering trust in the unseen. And sometimes I see this also in my work. It's like, can we trust that it's all okay? Like, even if it's not okay, can it be okay? Can there be this greater underlying trust in what we cannot see? Because we live in a culture that very much wants to know, predict, measure, make finite, make secure. We want to know. We are very deeply uncomfortable with the unknown, and we are in a moment of the great unknown. But the moment that we can drop into a place of trust, like before I went out on my walk yesterday, I just looked at Facebook for like 5 minutes and saw these headlines, and it really put me into a state of just discomfort around just the fear and the panic of everything. And I just felt it in my body. It felt awful. And then when I took a walk and I just heard the birds and I saw the blossoms blooming and the air was so fresh and I put my hands on the earth, there was this like returning to, as I said, to what's real. And then that place of surrender could come in, and then that place of trust could come in. And it was really like, can we just trust that there is something that we're learning? There's a greater reason for this. And I know people hate that, like, oh, everything happens for a reason, bullshit. But it's not that I mean that. It's that everything has an opportunity for us to grow and evolve through and out of it. There's always a lesson that we can learn from it. But it requires trust. And we're in a moment where we have to have this unwavering trust in what we cannot see. And there's a beauty in that, because maybe this isn't just about always controlling or predicting our future. Maybe this is just really an invitation to come and be in the present moment, to slow down, to feel into ourselves, to begin to cultivate that inner trust, that innate knowing that cannot be proven, that cannot be measured, that cannot be put into a formula. It's an experience of being. And so to tie it into what I was saying at the beginning, it's no different when we're facing ourselves, Can we trust that we are held? Can we trust that we are good enough? Can we trust that we can show up for ourselves with a loving tenderness, and to embrace the fear, to soften the judgment by saying to ourselves that, all of this story maybe just isn't true. I mean, look at the media right now. That's a really good manifestation of this kind of belief system. It's a show. Well, it's a shit show, as they're calling it. But you know what I mean? It's you could say it's like a circus. And so really it's coming back to what has meaning, what's true, what really matters. And I think this is a huge invitation to just come back to ourselves, to come back to what is really real. And it will require trust. It will require surrender. It will require softening. It will require being. This quarantine is forcing us into being. And there's a lot to discover there. So anyway, I think I might have to do this in parts, because it's a conversation to be continued. But that's almost 10 minutes, so I'm going to shut up, get up, and brush my teeth. But thanks for hearing, and just some thoughts. I know a lot of shit's coming up, and whenever things get hard, there's always this want to fight against or hold on and resist, to not feel the pain or the loneliness or the suffering or the fear or the panic. And I've always learned it's like soften, 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 soften into it. Then things can breathe, then things can move, then things can alchemize and transform. And then we get the lesson. And I think this is what we're being asked to understand, is there's a lesson to be learned in all of this. And then the virus will lift. Then it will lift. Anyway, my hand's shaking. I've got to go. Love to you all. Bye. Good morning.